Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are back once again to bring you a PLE predictions video, this time for Saturday night's main event that is set to take place on Saturday, May 23rd in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Per usual, we'll go through every single match, give you our thoughts and kind of feelings on each one, and yeah, just give you our general vibe on the card overall as a whole. Our first matchup of the evening, and honestly, KP and I just had a discussion on this. We weren't entirely sure what's going on because I believe on Raw they said this was a non-title match, but regardless, we'll hit both ways of it. Ruca going up against Becky Lynch, maybe defending her IC title, women's IC title. It's very strange. This whole Saturday main event scene seems very thrown together last minute, but kind of seems like that's how it goes sometimes. But KP, any chance if this is for the Intercontinental Championship, if Becky Lynch loses her title here?
Well, yeah, if we are to believe this one is for the title, then the chances of Ruca walking away here with that gold, I would say, are pretty minimal. Like, considering they didn't even have plans to make this a title match on Raw, or that seemed to be the the pathway to this contest taking place at the event, I would be very surprised if they thought, okay, well, let's turn a non-title match into a title match where now the challenger is going to win. So I'd be very surprised if they went in that direction. Unless it's some massive, like change of plan, like right at the last second. But you did say this is a pretty thrown together event, so maybe this is just the the cherry on top of that thrown togetherness. I'm expecting a good match here. I think it should be great between the two ladies. Looking forward to the dynamics between the two. Soruka's first, real sort of bigger spotlight matchup since being on the main roster. Obviously, she's been on a Saturday's main event against Bailey in the past, but yeah, since actually being a full-on member, this is obviously the first one. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. Should be a good contest. I'm excited for it. I think Becky will win. I'm pretty sure she will, considering the title will be on the line according to the graphic anyway. So yeah, I'm gonna go with it is going to be a title match, and Becky's gonna retain. I'm just excited for this one. Yeah, looking forward to seeing how this one plays out, between both ladies. But yeah, keen for it for sure. What about you, Nick? Very strange how this one's come together, and obviously, the umming and ahhing of whether this one's for the title or not. Are you going with Becky Lynch to retain? I think it's a bit too early for Ruca to win based on, being in the main roster for such a short period of time. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you make a good point about if, didn't even know this is going to be for the title, so you would logically think that probably not the time for Becky to lose it. And the other point you made, I would agree with, is that Ruca has been on the main roster for a very short amount of time. Although that being said, if anyone were to win a title this quickly, one of the few people I would put that kind of a possibility under would be Ruca. Obviously made many, many waves on NXT, pun intended. And I do think when it was announced on Raw that it wasn't going to be for the title, I thought that made perfect sense. Have Ruca be able to beat Lynch here and then maybe at Clash in Italy do it for the title. Just thought that made perfect sense for the way it was kind of set up. But whatever, WWE would be the first time they changed their mind at the last second, and maybe they do have plans to put on Ruca. I wouldn't be mad at it, but I do think it makes sense for Becky to find a way to get a cheap win here and continue that rivalry and maybe give it to her down the line. So I will also go with Becky to retain. The next match of the evening has Penta. He is defending his WWE Intercontinental Championship as well, going up against Ethan Page. KP, any chance All Ego gets his IC first gold on the main roster here?
Well, it's almost a carbon copy of the previous conversation, right? I mean, you've got somebody who, has had the gold for a little while, not too long, in Penta, and then you've got the challenger, an NXT call-up, pretty recently, so very early into their main roster career. You would just logically think straight away, nah, no chance that Ethan Page is going to win this one. I'm with that side of things. I love Ethan. I love Penta. I'm looking forward to this match because it's a great sort of start for Penta on for Ethan Page on the bigger scene for main roster. But I don't expect him to win the title, although it'd be a cool moment for sure. It'd be great. I think that'll come eventually, but not quite just yet. And there are a lot of names around the IC title pitch. We've had the likes of Rusev and Javon Evans and all that kind of stuff. So maybe this one could be a screw finish or something like that. Maybe distractions involved. Perhaps I'm not entirely certain. But yeah, I guess nonetheless, though, exciting contest on paper. Looking forward to it. But I don't expect Paige to win. I'm pretty sure Penta will get the 1-2-3 here. And still your Intercontinental champion at the end of this matchup. But yeah, excited for this one. Should be fun. Should be a good match. I love Ethan Page and Penta. So yeah, put them both together. Should have a great one. Nick, what about you, though? This is giving the similar vibes to the first match. Do you share the same opinions?
Yeah, I would agree. I will say that I think this one definitely has screwy finish written all over it. Typically, Saturday Night Main Events is not a place where a ton of titles change hands either. So, for better or worse, that has kind of this going for it as well. My main hope is obviously we all know Penta's great and everything, but I think a lot of people still don't quite know what to think of Ethan Page. So my hope is that he can turn a few heads here and make some believers out of the general main audience, main event, main roster audience. So that's kind of my hope here. Again, wouldn't be mad if Ethan Page were to win. Penta's done great with the IC title, but it would be quite the head turner to have Ethan Page win this quickly. So I do think, as you said, I think Penta will retain here, but I am looking forward to this match as well. The next matchup of the evening has Paige and Brie Bella defending their women's tag team championships against the Irresistible Forces after Paige and Brie Bella had a really tough time with the Judgment Day on Monday. Didn't get in a lot of offense in here. Is was that a sign of things to come? Maybe they were looking ahead to this match, perhaps. KP, any chance Brie and Paige lose their titles here back to the Irresistible Forces?
We've seen a lot of Paige and Brie Bella since WrestleMania, haven't we? I think on pretty much every single show they've been on, except for maybe the Raw after Mania, where they were just in the crowd. But even still, they were seen then. But yeah, they've had a lot of TV time recently, a lot of screen time, getting involved in matches and putting the titles on the line quite consistently too. As for this particular match against the Irresistible Forces, we did see Paige and Brie beat these two literally like what was it, a couple of weeks ago now. So it's quite recently that this match did take place, the rematch, from obviously WrestleMania and the backlash from that. Um, it's an odd one because I think probably out of the matches on the card, this probably has the most chance of changing championships. I would probably wager, but I don't think I expect it to change hands yet. Purely for the fact that we've also got like Nikki Bella in this whole conversation. Obviously, she's injured at the moment. I'm trying to sort of like put like a placeholder here. So obviously we got Paige, which is amazing for myself personally. I massive fan of Paige, always have been. But like I feel like probably when these two do drop those titles, I feel like Nikki could be like, I don't know, somewhere involved in that, maybe out of jealousy or something. Perhaps we've seen sort of a mean streak from Nikki over the past year or so. So I guess that makes some sort of sense. Whether it would be now, I'm not entirely certain of that. I guess it would be logical, but she would have to surely be fit in order to play into that sort of role. So I'm going to say that Paige and Brie will retain here. It just seems a little bit strange that we do get this matchup twice in like a matter of like 2 weeks or so. So yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit confused by that, but I think it's meant to probably try and throw us off as if like, oh, this time the Irresistible Forces will get the win. Aaron Lash will win the titles back. So yeah, I don't know. I'm going to go with Paige and Brie to win. I don't know if I'm maybe overthinking things with Nikki, but like, I don't know. I'm just trying to look ahead at the the payoff to this whole thing. I thought that could be one of the options. But yeah, I'm going to go with Brie and Paige to retain. Not entirely convinced that the Irresistible Forces will win here. What about you, Nick? This is quite a tough one, maybe, depending. But where do you lie on this?
Yeah, I would say this is, if not the toughest, the second toughest on the card because Bree and Paige just kind of scream, bring back veterans, get a big moment in Mania, short title reign. We've seen that before. I'm sure we'll see it again. That's kind of what this screams to me. And as you mentioned, we've seen this matchup not long ago. The kind of other side of that coin, though, is there are a lot of other teams, the Judgment Day, Bailey and Lyra, Charlotte and Alexa at one point not that long ago, that are all kind of gunning for these titles as well. So I think that kind of plays a part, and that could play a part in the match finish. I hate to say that, but there are a lot of matches on this card that could have some outside interference. This definitely being another one of them. I think if this is a clean match, no interference, I think the Irresistible Forces probably win back their titles here and kind of continue with what they were doing before. If other teams do get involved, and I think that will allow kind of Paige and Brie to retain here. I think that's really the only way. I think it's just a bad look for the Irresistible Forces not to be able to put them away on their own. So that's kind of where my head's at. So clean finish, I'm gonna go with Irresistible Forces to get back those women's tag team titles. the next matchup of the evening, when I would say if the last match wasn't the hardest to predict, I would say maybe this one is. Again, probably another chance of a very high chance. I would say higher chance of outside interference. Obviously, that's the elephant in the room here. But KP, any chance of Logan Paul and Austin Theory defending their World Tag Team Championships for the last time tonight against the Street Profits?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. You mentioned the interference. I'm absolutely, sure as day that we're going to see Bron Breakker, Seth Rollins, obviously Paul Heyman. A lot of guys in and around the situation here. I'd wager there's going to be quite chaotic on the outside of the ring, especially. We've seen that sort of discourse between Montez Ford, especially, and Seth Rollins. A little bit of Angelo Dawkins in there, but he's sort of, I don't know, warm into the idea of Seth a little bit more than Tez is. So yeah, there are a lot of sort of interesting relationship dynamics in this one that can make a number of scenarios, in my opinion. I think probably the most logical one for me is the Vision retaining, purely for the fact that I think so far in this build we've just seen everything just blow up in the faces of Rollins and the Profits. I feel like that probably would just continue though. Like it just seems to make sense. Otherwise, like you're going from just complete discourse to suddenly, it all ticks on like, the biggest moment going. So it does sound almost like cliche when you put it that way. So I think maybe in that sense, I would probably go for the Vision just to retain. I don't know about Bronson Reed either. Maybe we can see sort of him come back and play a little bit of a, returning factor in this one. I'd love to see him back in the scene. I haven't really heard anything about it, but like, I don't know how long he's out for, um, but obviously, if he were to come back, that would also be a great reason for the Vision to retain because of obviously that very big influence there. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not relying on Reed to come back, so I'm going to sort of exclude that from that. It's just a hopeful opportunity, basically. But I'm going to stick with the Vision. I reckon Theory and Logan do retain, and we see that discourse sort of continuing here from Tez and Rollins. Otherwise, it all just seems a little bit for nothing. I feel like we're bubbling up to something. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Theory and Logan. What about you, though, Nick? Do you think the same thing as me, or are you going to go the other side? Maybe new tag team champions crown. Where's your head at?
Yeah, I think the easy choice is definitely to have the Vision retain here, and I would love for Bronson Reed to see a return here. Problem is, if Bronson Reed does return and Division is back to full capacity, I have a hard time seeing them losing those tag team titles anytime soon. The Street Profits dynamic is interesting. Not the first time we've seen this kind of dynamic between the Street Profits. And the last time they did that, it didn't really pay off. Everyone was high and convinced that Street Profits were done, that Ford was going to go on as a singles guy. But yeah, I don't know. This is weird. I think you make the best point, and that is, if they are to all come together, Street Profits get the win and the titles here, and Seth magically, everyone's getting along, then it feels like kind of what have we been doing for the last few weeks? So yeah, it's. I think that's probably the biggest argument here, and a matter of how much, not a matter of if, but how much interference. So yeah, I think the Vision to win, not super confident in that, but I think yeah, just based on what the story they've been telling and assuming they're going to continue that story and not just drop it, which also wouldn't be surprising. But I do have the Vision to retain here. And I guess what could be the main event, not entirely sure, but yeah, Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, and Alexa Bliss finally tagging together there, going up against Jade, Cargill, Michin, and B-Fab. Funny enough, if the women's Intercontinental title is on the line, this is the only non-title match, so a pretty stacked Saturday night's main event. Don't know if we'll see any title changes, but with this being the main event, KP, what are you making of the winner here? This one's kind of been, it feels like it's been working up to it for a while, but then also kind of thrown together at the same time. It's a weird dynamic. But who you got coming out of this one?
Yeah, this is kind of odd because you've got like overlapping situations here with Charlotte and Alexa being obviously in the women's tag team matches recently, and coming off of a few unfortunate results there. Jade Cargill obviously losing to Rhea at WrestleMania, and these stories seemingly overlapping with obviously B-Fab and Michin being part of the group. I feel like this matchup does make sense put on paper with how things have been, but it almost does seem thrown together, which is kind of strange. But yeah, I'm liking the fact that we've got three matches for the women here to have a good showcase. Obviously, depending on the length of the matches themselves, that'll be the big question. But a lot of women involved on the card, which is quite nice to see. 5 matches as well, which is another thing to note too. But for this matchup, though, yeah, you got a lot of star power here, especially the 4 ladies on the left going into the middle. No offense to B-Fab and Michin, obviously they're trying to build themselves up a little bit, get some more, respect from on the roster, build themselves up into a higher position thanks to Jade Cargill being aligned with her. And I feel like a great way of, being in a position like this is to get a win on a decent stage. So I feel like the win for Jade, B-Fab, and Michin does a lot more for them than it does for Rhea, Charlotte, and Alexa. You probably look at this match on paper and think, oh, Rhea, Charlotte, and Alexa are easy peasy, job done. But what does that do going forward? What's the payoff after this? I feel like if you do that, Jade, Michin, and B-Fab, they, they just lose all momentum. And considering Jade's got a clash in Italy, chapter match against Rhea Ripley coming up, for her to lose here would just be kind of strange. So I don't really think that makes any sense at all. So I'm expecting some sort of advantageous win here, perhaps, seizing opportunity from the 3 of them. But Jade, Michin, B-Fab, and B-Fab to get the victory here over Rhea, Charlotte, and Alexa, which might seem unlikely on paper, but I think it just makes most sense. I think it's a logical choice for sure. So I'm going to go with a trio on the right. What about you, Nick? Where's your head lying with this one? Do you agree with myself? And what do you make of this whole coming together of a matchup?
Yeah, going with logic is a dangerous game in WWE sometimes. But yeah, I would have to agree. I think with Charlotte and Rhea being hesitant to tag, or Charlotte, I guess, being hesitant to tag with Rhea, I'm assuming that plays a role here. Charlotte and Alexa, do they continue to tag together? Maybe we could continue the kind of thought process of they aren't going to be a team forever. Maybe we start to see cracks in that relationship. I think it's only a matter of time before Charlotte becomes a single star again, especially with the likes of Rhea and Jade here. Seen some fantasy booking of them 3 maybe at SummerSlam. That would be a great contest. Would love to see that. But yeah, I think eventually you have to separate Charlotte and Alexa again. To create the single stars, and as you said, B-Fab, Michin, and Jade Cargill need to make some sort of statement. So winning here, maybe Jade pinning Charlotte would be a big deal. I feel like Alexa seems like the obvious choice, but pinning Charlotte would be a great way to kind of continue to help rise her stock. So I do think you are correct, Jade, Michin, and B-Fab to get the win here. But overall, Saturday night's main event this Saturday. Enough from us over here at the push. What are your predictions here? Let us know in the comments below. Did we get any wrong? Let us know as well. If you like what we're putting out here, please do hit that like and subscribe button, as that helps us out tremendously. We'll be back with the reactions on Sunday, and of course the SmackDown recap in the meantime as well. But until next time, this has been the push with Nick and KP. We'll see you soon. Take care.